grandfather clause and who will be stuck paying the new tax. Most importantly, I'll lay out the ticking clock and what you absolutely must know before the end of 2025 if you want any chance of securing this tax free status before it's gone for good. The time for thinking is over, it is finished. The time for action is now. So, to really get to scale of what's changing, you have to grasp just how revolutionary the original deal was. What we call Act 60 grew out of earlier laws, most famously Act 22, the Individual Investor Act, put into place in 2012. Its goal was simple but audacious. It attracted money and wealthy people to the island to boost a struggling economy. The offer it made was unheard of for American citizens. If you become a bona fide resident of Puerto Rico, the island would give you a tax decree, which is basically a binding contract between you and the government. The contract unlocked a powerful set of benefits, a extremely impressive headliner where the one that drew millionaires, crypto pioneers, and Wall Street traders straight to their doorstep was the 100% tax exemption on all Puerto Rico sourced interest, dividends, and most importantly, capital gains. So let's put that in perspective. Imagine you're a startup founder in California. You've poured a decade into building your company and you're about to have a $10 million exit. In California, between federal and state taxes, you could easily face a bill of over $3 million. Your $10 million win is really a $7 million reality. Now, imagine you planned ahead. A year before the sale, you move to Puerto Rico and establish bona fide residency. You sell the company, your tax bill on that $10 million is now zero, not one penny. The full 10 million is yours. This wasn't some shady tactic, it was a legal protected incentive. The same went for a crypto investor who bought Bitcoin for pennies and wanted to cash out for millions, or a stock trader with a massive portfolio. This is why Puerto Rico became a mecca for a certain kind of investor. It wasn't just a tax break, it was a wealth multiplier, but it wasn't a simple trick. Becoming a bona fide resident is a serious commitment with strict IRS rules. It is a three-part test. First, the presence test. You have to be physically on the island for at least 183 days a year. This is the rule everyone knows. No shortcuts. You have to live there. Second, the tax home test. This means your main hub of income producing activity has to be in Puerto Rico. You can't keep your corner office in New York and just pretend your tax home is San Juan. Your economic life needs to move as well. Third, and this is often the toughest, is the closer connections test. This one is more about quality than quantity. You have to prove you have a closer tie to Puerto Rico than to the US mainland. This means moving your family, getting a local driver's license, registering to vote, moving your bank accounts, joining local clubs, and having your personal belongings, your art, your cars, your life centered on the island. This is the test that weeds out people just looking for the tax break without really committing. Finally, under Act 60, there were a couple more hoops to jump through. Buying a home within 2 years of getting your decree and making an annual $10,000 charitable donation feels like a tax to me, but that donation has to be a registered local nonprofit at least $5,000 of it must go to an organization focused on ending child poverty. So two nonprofits, because at least of them has to be ending child poverty in Puerto Rico. But $10,000 a year out of $10 million is not a lot of money. $10,000 a year out of $1 million. That's like regular American tax rates. When you put these tough requirements next to the incredible tax payoff, you see why it created such a unique and motivated community. So these weren't just tax tourists, these were people who uprooted their lives for a once in a generation financial opportunity. And that's that perfect deal of zero taxes for US citizens that is now being taken apart for newcomers. Act 60 success grew, the winds of change started to blow, and on one hand, the problem was bringing in a lot of money and was credited with helping create jobs. On the other hand, it sparked resentment and claims of inequality. Stories of wealthy outsiders driving up real estate prices while paying no taxes created intense political pressures. The feeling, right or wrong, was the deal was just too good. So the government acted in 2025 of this year, where Puerto Rican legislators passed a reform to the bill approved by both their House and their Senate that this is now awaiting the governor's signature. The reform doesn't kill the act, but it rewrites the core promise for everyone new to the island. So here is the single biggest change. Starting January 1st of 2026, the 0% tax exemption on passive income for new applicants is over. It will be replaced by a new 4% flat tax on Puerto Rican sourced capital gains, interest, and dividends. So let's be clear. From a global perspective, a 4% tax on capital gains is fantastic compared to the 20% federal rate in the US, plus another 10% or more state tax. 4% is still an amazing deal. It absolutely keeps Puerto Rico on the map as the top tier tax destination for Americans, but the shift is monumental. The magic of Act 60 was never low tax, it was no tax. The number zero has a higher power than 4%, and 4% just can't match that. The dream, the ultimate prize, was wiped out where capital gains tax entirely not existing is no longer an observation over the next 5 months. That is what is being taken off the table for new residents. And that's not the only change. The reform also adds a new rule. An applicant has to prove they haven't been a resident of Puerto Rico for at least 6 years before they apply. This is to make sure the benefits go to genuine new arrivals. So, why change? The official line is about making the program more sustainable and fair, where the government thinks this new 4% tax will bring in tens of millions of new revenue, the money that can be used for public services, while it's recognizing its public trade off. They're sacrificing the perfect 0% rate to make sure the program can survive for the long haul. But for the investor who has been planning their life around the promise of zero, the why doesn't matter as much as the what. The deal is changing. The contract being offered in 2026 is fundamentally different, and the deadline is set in stone. So this change does more than just add a new tax. It's creating a great divide where it establishes a two-tiered system for investors in Puerto Rico. With the line drawn on December 31st of 2025, this is where the grandfather clause becomes the most important term for anyone thinking about the move. The law is crystal clear. Anyone who already has Act 60 decree or anyone who applies and gets their decree before the end of 2025 is grandfathered in under the old rules. This means they keep their 0% tax rate on passive income for the life of their decree. Their contract is honored without a problem. Everyone else, on the other hand, they're going to be missing out because the others that have already been grandfathered in, they are in the 0% club. But everyone else that is applying on or after January 1st of 2026 gets hit with the new 4% tax, and they're in the 4% club. Think about what that means. Imagine two entrepreneurs who are both planning to sell their identical companies for $20 million. An entrepreneur sees what's happening and fast tracks the plan, moving to Puerto Rico in 2025, becoming a bona fide resident, and locking in Act 60 decree in 2027. That person can sell the company, and the tax bill on the $20 million will be zero. Another person, same business, hesitates, waits, figures the deal will still be good enough, and makes the move early 2026. Goes through the exact same process, but when he sells a company for 20 million, gets hit with the bill, it's not zero, it's 4% of the 20 mil. That's going to be $800,000. That's the price tag for a 1 year delay. Merely $1 million gone because of the lack of action. This creates a strange new dynamic. The old money of Act 60 will be the people who got in before the deadline. They'll operate under a permanently better tax structure than anyone who comes after them. And this isn't just about one sale, it's about every investment decision for decades. Every stock sold, every dividend, every crypto trade. For one group, it's tax free. For the other, it's a 4% toll forever. Now, this deadline is already sending shockwaves through the market. Real estate agents in places like Dorado and Cadado are seeing a huge surge in urgency from buyers. People aren't just borrowing anymore, they're trying to lock down a property and get their application filed before the window closes. We're watching a race to be on the right side of the grandfathering line. The ones left behind will be the people who are waiting too long, the skeptics, the uninformed individuals. And that's why here in this and that, we spend a lot more time trying to get you guys informed on what's going on. Those guys that are less informed, they're going to show up in 2026 and realize they missed the deal of a lifetime by just a few months. And they'll still have a massive tax advantage over living in the mainland, but they will also be paying a tax that their neighbors who acted faster will never have to worry about. So knowing the stakes is one thing, doing something about it is another. The message from Puerto Rican government is clear. If you want the 0% deal, you need to get approved on Act 60 decree and have it in your hands by December 31st of 2025. This isn't something you can start in December of next year. The whole relocation and application process can easily take 4 to 6 months, if not longer. That means for all applicants uh, and any practical purposes, your journey has to start right now. So if you're serious, what's the roadmap? It's not just filling out a form. It's about methodological moving. You got to move your entire life. Immediate professional consultations is something that can be done. Before you do anything else, the first thing you do, you should call a team of professionals who specialize in Act 60, a tax advisor, a lawyer who lives and breathes these rules. You have to verify your eligibility under the details of your specific income and map out a timeline. Getting this wrong could mean a failed application or worse, an IRS audit down the road. The physical move and the 183-day countdown is going to be step two. The clock on that, physically being present in Puerto Rico for 183 days, that test is the biggest hurdle. To qualify for the test, 2025 calendar year, you have to be physically on the island for at least 183 days within that year. I don't think we have 183 days left in the year because 183 days is 6 months and 3 days. And we are in the seventh month of the year. August is the eighth month. So you have 5 months left. So everybody who's not already 30 days into this, you're missing out. That means you need to be living in Puerto Rico already full time by July 1st of this year at the absolute latest. So if you haven't already started doing it, you missed the boat. But you shouldn't cut it that close. Plan for travel, for unexpected situations. Realistically, you should have aimed to move in the first quarter of 2025 if you were going to do it. Try to get it in by June so that you would have already been on the island for 2 months now, where you would have been able to safely get all of your stuff done by the end of the year. Finding a secure home would have been the next step, where a core requirement of Act 60 is buying a primary residence within 2 years of getting your decree. But you need a place to live now to meet the residency test. So that means your property search needs to start immediately. The luxury market is already heating up because the deadline is forcing people to rush. Negotiating and closing on homes is pretty difficult, and the deals are going to take a lot of time. So this step alone can take months. While you're waiting to buy something, you might actually end up renting just so that you can be present on the island. The closer connection idea is also going to be another trick for you. You have to overhaul your entire life. This is where the real work comes in because you have to systematically cut your ties to the mainland and plant new roots in Puerto Rico. The checklist of actions is not just intentions. You have to get your driver's license and Puerto Rican in Puerto Rico. So you have to surrender your U.S. driver's license to get you a Puerto Rican driver's license. Register to vote in Puerto Rico. Um, Close your mainland bank accounts and open your primary bank accounts in Puerto Rico. I'm not sure if they will allow you to have extra banks in the United States while having a Puerto Rican bank, but primarily having a Puerto Rican bank account is something that is expected to have. Then you're going to be looking at moving your personal property and all of your valued possessions that are near and dear to you. Those items are going to have to be in your Puerto Rican home, not in a storage unit in America. So this means that furniture, art, cars, and anything that shows the center of your life has to physically move with you so they can see that you are stuck in Puerto Rico. Your social and community ties is probably going to have to be a little bit different than the way it was in America because America, you could have just stayed to yourself. In order to show that you're incorporating yourself into Puerto Rican way of life, you might have to join a local gym, get a country club, go to church, or Find some kind of professional group to be a part of, establish some friendships, get involved in the community, and you have to be actively involved in the community, not just some shut in that owns a piece of land in Puerto Rico. Because who knows if you've been there if nobody knows that you're there? If you have family, you can move your spouse, your children, any dependents with you, girlfriend, wife, girlfriend, and wife. Their presence is a powerful signal that Puerto Rico is your new permanent home as well. Registering your kids in school and stuff to that effect. Then you're going to be dealing with the application decree. Once you've made the real progress on these fronts, your legal team will prepare and submit your Act 60 application. And this is a detailed package of documents that you need to submit to the government online portals in order to get approved. And proving that you're becoming a bona fide resident is not going to be a quick click of the button because the government will review it, and that in and of itself will take several months. Imagine the legal system in America where everything is at a snail's pace. Now imagine the Puerto Rican's legal system that is going to be not necessarily as fast because you get in when you get in. Michael said, never use a storage unit. If you want to save your money, sell everything, or I will own your stuff at the next storage auction. He ain't capping neither, bro. Okay, so real quick sidestep. I'm glad he brought that up. When we talked about buying assets, we actually came across a good idea. Me, Michael, Eric, we were all sitting here talking one day, and we came across the fact that it is a low cost buy in and substantial profits for you to own storage facility properties. You could literally buy a plot of land and build a storage facility on it if that plot of land is reasonably near a civilization that needs storage because Americans are hoarders. And when we can't fit stuff in our house, we rent storage space. And we rent it for so long that we forget why we're paying for the bill. Then when we can't afford to pay the bill, all of our stuff gets sold. So technically anything that doesn't fit in the primary aspects of your house without taking up space should either be sold or donated with a voucher where you can write it off on your taxes to minimize space. Because if you can't fit it in your house, you don't need it. If you can't fit it in your driveway, you don't need it. And if you don't understand this, Michael will buy it from you out of an estate sale or or a storage sale. Y'all seen that TV show where they be selling people stuff in the storage unit auctions, and somebody will bust the lock and they score. They got your car now because your car was in storage. So it's a huge side hustle now. And then the funny thing about that is that you can establish three employees and you can alternate them and have one working the morning shift from like 8 to 2 and the other one working like 2 to 9, where they're both working like 6 hour days or something like that. So they're not even working full time. And you can have them work 5 or 6 days a week and offset them because I said three people. So you can have a morning shift, an evening shift, and then the weekend warrior that does the half day for Saturday and Sunday, having staff on your property 7 days a week where you can collect money from people on a regular basis, establish an online website where people are paying online, and then all you got to do is just have them swing by, make sure the locks are correct, make sure that the payments are in, and make money. Make money. You don't have to do nothing else. And because somebody else is managing the situation, all of the money is going to be going into a bank account that you yourself then will be able to manage the bank account. Because if you've got a payroll system set up where somebody's going to pay the employees, you don't have to worry about the employees doing anything other than getting paid to hang out and make sure that the property still exists and doesn't get burned out. It pays for itself. It pays for itself. So that's actually a fantastic idea to think about. Um, and I actually had that under my thoughts because when we were talking about traveling the world with the podcast, um, it costs more money to maintain the standard of living in the United States while traveling the world. It is cheaper to liquidate all the assets in America and then travel the world, or only go to like vacation style someplace every now and again, and then primarily maintain the standard of living in America. Now, if you've got it like that, where you can afford two different houses in two different countries, by all means do that. But two different standards of living is twice as much spending, and you're only be able to benefit from one of them at a time. Now, what you could do, Airbnb that bitch out and rent out your house in America while you're not using it. Then when you come back to America, since it'll be Airbnb'd out, they'll voluntarily leave and you don't have to worry about anything and just clean everything up and then, move right on in and then take care of your stuff, take care of yourself. That's another thing to put into your repertoire because if the property is making money for you while you're not in America, it's not a liability, it's an asset. Then when you come back to America and you move back into your house, it's a benefit, but it's still a liability. Now, given a complex process and a timeline that's so tight right now, if some of the people started doing it right now at the beginning of August, you don't have a realistic shot of getting in before the deadline. If you would have started at like the end of June, you probably would have been able to meet the deadline. The one thing you're not going to get between August 1st and December 31st is 183 days. So if you wait until the end of 2025, it'll be incredibly difficult. And if you wait until 2026, it's not going to happen for you. So the window is closing, and only those who act with decisive and immediate action and well advised action as well will make it through. So this process being complex has the stakes skyrocketing as we get closer and closer to that deadline, and the timeline is unforgiving. So getting one part of the residency test wrong could cost you millions in taxes because truthfully, you have to reapply. If you mess this up, you have to reapply. This is not a DUI project. If you are a high net worth individual seriously considering this move to lock in 0% rates before the end of 2025 deadline, you need expert guidance. So you're going to have to talk to a team of people that can help you and hundreds of other clients navigate the process and help you build realistic step by step roadmaps to see you meet that deadline without any issues. But don't wait until it's too late because then you're going to be regretting it. Once you're on the island, the goal is to make your capital work for you in unique environments. Beyond that, just protecting your gains. Puerto Rico offers powerful investment opportunities. And because you're going to Puerto Rico, I'm going to give you five of them. The first one is going to be tourism and hospitality. A lot of countries have this as an incentive that you can benefit from. Puerto Rico's tourism industry is booming because people are starting to travel the world more, and this is leading to the Caribbean being an attraction for international tourists. This creates a massive demand for vacation rentals, boutique hotels, and luxury resorts. Investing in short term rental properties in high demand areas like San Juan, Rincon, or Dorado can generate strong cash flow. Furthermore, since Act 60 provides specific incentives for tourist projects, including a 4% income tax rate and significant tax credits for eligible investments in hotels and other hospitality ventures, you might see the difference between that 4% tax and an even larger tax deduction depending on what you got going on. Another thing that we're seeing, number two, is real estate development, which is and always has been worldwide one of the best things to get yourselves involved in if you can afford it. With the now rising market and surge of new wealthy residents that are going to Puerto Rico, but the rising market of real estate that is surging due to the tariffs not being a thing as much as they used to be earlier this year, the demand of residential and commercial properties is starting to become stronger. So the entire real estate market in Puerto Rico is valued at over 346 billion in 2025, and they are significant opportunities in luxury condos, mixed use buildings in urban centers like San Juan, and developing land in designated opportunity zones, which covers over 95% of the island and offer their own set of powerful tax benefits. In addition to only having a max set of 4%. So even if you miss the deadline, it is not that hard to get tax exempt off of 4%. If you can find your way to become tax exempt off of 25 or 30% in America, it is easy for you to find yourself tax exempt in Puerto Rico. The third one is going to be renewable energy. A lot of countries around the world are diving into renewable energy. They all have different incentives for it. Puerto Rico is one of them. Their electrical grid is famously expensive and unreliable, creating a critical need for alternative energy. And this has sparked a government backed push towards renewable sources with a legal mandated reach of 100% renewable energy by 2050. Michael said, can't afford a house, buy some land, especially depressed land. Explain depressed lands because people don't really know what a depressed land is. Because you have lands that are in high distress, the individuals that are needing to be rehabilitated, the ones that have a lot of code penalties for like high grass and stuff to that effect. You've got the ones that have already been foreclosed on. Um, Express to them what a depressed land is because that's different from the lands that are like wastelands because you can actually buy um wasteland kind of lands that are not, you can't build on it, but it gives you a tax credit because you, okay, so that's what I was thinking. Ones that are they look horrible. So well, I can't think of the name of the movie right now. But off the top of my head, dang it, there's someone in the house. I think that's the name of the movie. Um, there's one house in this neighborhood, and all the rest of the houses look condemned. They're spray painted, windows busted out, boarded up. Um, they've got blue tarps hanging off of the buildings. They've got burnt up cars sitting outside, rusted up, no tires on them, grass 7 feet high, kind of stuff. Distressed houses. That's what he said depressed. And that's why I was like, hold on, because I have not seen a sad house. I haven't seen a sad house. But yeah, the trashy ones, the ones that look like haunted houses, the ones that look like they've been through some shit, the ones that look like they got burned down and nobody had the initiative to build them back up. Yeah, those houses. Oh, all of Detroit. I'm coining him. So if y'all from Detroit, special shout out to Detroit. I ain't never been to Detroit. I ain't know that they had it like that, but he's there. All of Detroit. You can buy whole lots out there. Um, but yes, uh, most countries, even in America, there are incentives. The United States not only gives you grants for developing real estate for low income communities, at risk communities, distressed communities, uh, but other countries around the world have incentives for some of the same things because apparently poverty is worldwide. So people who can't afford to pay for their living struggle, and if you can fix that struggle, the whatever country you're doing it in will love you for that and give you some props for that. That might either save you some money or make you some money back off of your investment. Think about think about going to Japan, tackling that market. On paper, it costs a lot of money to go over there and renovate some stuff. But you go over there and renovate some stuff because it takes like 5 years because the government is involved with every nail that gets hammered onto the property. But you go over there, you pick up a property for no dollars, just pay taxes on the land, which is like $800. Now you own a house and the land. You can go through the motions of rebuilding this house, and then you set the values for low income housing. Show the government that incentive met. And then if you're starting up a real estate business over there where you are buying and holding rental properties, and then you hire two local individuals, one to buy the properties and one to rent them out so that you don't have to do that. All you have to do is just fund the money over to build them up and take the profits to buy the next property. Then you can go and get that incentive that still exists in Japan, which is a little less than what it was before, but they're paying a large majority of your startup costs in Japan, and the incentive could potentially go towards the salary of the two individuals that you hired for almost a year, not 8 months to a year. Which, if you're buying apartment complexes for no dollars and just paying $1,000 of property taxes, and then you renovate all the units out, and then you rent out the units, and the tenants are paying rent, and the rent is competitively low in comparison to other areas, the profits that you would get pouring in off of that would offset by the time the incentive paid your the salary of your tenants. You could also build that up in a way where you could then continue to buy more rental properties out there, because Japan is one of those countries that's not going to say you can't buy land if you don't live there. You can buy land under your personal name. You can buy land under your LLC or your C corporation, foreign domestic business that you start up over there. You can buy land and then rent it out. So think about $250,000 in America could get you a 3 bedroom house, and think about how $10,000 in Japan could probably get you 100 acres of land that you could build probably a few hundred houses, or because they do apartments out there more than houses, you could probably just build you a massive apartment complex out there with a pretty decent parking lot for everybody, and then make it do what it do, and that would be substantial, because since you would be catering to the low income community, they would be like, oh, money back for you, which means that it costs you less to build it. Now, the loss that you would take in America for trying to pull off some shit like that is completely different from the gains that you would get off of Japan. And then the other thing that you have to think about with that is that any expenses paid in Japan is a tax deduction in America, because America is nosy. They want to know how much money you make from every country around the world. And you got to pay taxes to the US because you're a US citizen for every country around the world. So if you're taking a financial loss in Japan, that is a deduction towards your financial gains in the United States. And they give you a tax exemption for up to, if I remember correctly, between 150 and $250,000 from another country that isn't going to get taxed in the U.S. And because you're claiming taxes in the U.S., you have other countries that will exempt your taxation in their country to a degree, depending on where your money's coming from. So there are some benefits there for international businesses. But like Michael said, you got to go in there and find the ones that nobody likes, find the properties that nobody wants to fuck with, put your money into it, and keep it. Buying and selling is good. Buying and selling will turn you a profit, but there's so much effort into buying a property, renovating a property, getting rid of the property, and then doing it over again. The profit margin is not that high. But if you buy the property, renovate the property, and rent it out for the life of the property, unless you start making the rent too high, the money is going to keep coming in. The money's going to keep coming in. So now you just got to ask yourself, you know, where do you want to put your money? Michael says we buy depressed lands, clean it up with the mini, then we have the land reassessed, and the bank give us 90% of the new value. That is smart. So you get it dirt cheap, you clean up the property, have an appraiser reappraise the property now that you have cleaned it up. Not necessarily fixed it, but cleaned it up. And then you get a loan for the after repair value of the property, which is going to be higher than the current value because you're about to fix it. And if you got banks that are going to give you 90% of the new value, where some of the less favorable individuals might give you 65 to 70% of the after repair value. If you got banks that are giving you 90% of the new value, you might pick a depressed property for like 50 or $60,000. That after repair value might be $500,000, and if the bank is going to give you 350 or $400,000 to fix that house, which is only going to cost you $100,000, you would be doing a fantastic job with turning over a large quantity of profits off of that because you get to keep the loan money and then sell the house or rent out the house and then have the profits pay for the loan. You already got paid. You got paid in the beginning. He said the mini only cost $3,000 at auction. So he went and bought some equipment that was going to help him be successful for the long haul. So he don't have to keep renting them little bad boys out because the things get expensive when you go out there and rent them too. If this is the kind of things that you're planning on doing for the foreseeable future, you start preparing yourself to be self-supplied. That way you don't have to spend all this money on borrowing it from somebody else because they charge premiums to rent this out, rent out the trailer, rent out the truck to haul it, and then all this extra money that you're outsourcing to borrow equipment when you could just own the equipment because you're planning on doing this again. But this is a just like tax liens and tax deeds, which we've covered a show on that as well. This is another way that you can get in there and make you some money. And then if you got you some young bucks, some Gen Zs that want to put in some effort, you could pay some young bucks a decent salary to get out there and do all the hard stuff for you. The the manual labor that you don't want to do that doesn't require certifications, they could be high school dropouts. Hey, clean this yard up, bro. Pick up all the trash, cut all the grass, get all the wood out of here, and then I'll come back with some heavy equipment and I'll pick up the stuff that y'all can't pick up. And that's outsourcing, subcontracting. And then you just got to have your a nice little contract with a dumping place to get rid of all of the waste. But it puts you in a very, very good position. Very good position. Now, when we're getting these types of properties over in Puerto Rico, there's billions in federal funds that have been allocated to modernizing the grid. So this is going to create a ground floor opportunity for investing in solar projects over in Puerto Rico. The battery storage systems and other green energy infrastructures, which also benefit from that specific tax incentive. The fourth thing that you can get from investing in Puerto Rico is going to be life science and advanced manufacturing. Puerto Rico is a global powerhouse in life sciences, particularly in pharmaceuticals and medical device manufacturing. So it's responsible for a huge portion of the U.S. pharmaceutical supplies and is a home to 12 of the world's top 20 pharma companies. This established ecosystem, combined with a highly skilled workforce of scientists and engineers, makes it a prime location for investing in biotech, R&D facilities, and advanced manufacturing opportunities, all of which can qualify for a major tax incentive in addition to that 4% max that you have. So with having the Act 60 Export service businesses, this particular incentive is one of the most direct ways to leverage the tax code by establishing businesses in Puerto Rico that provide services to clients outside of the island. You can qualify for a flat 4% corporate tax rate. And this is going to be a list of eligible services that is vast and includes consulting, digital marketing, asset management, software development, and so many more. So for businesses generating under 3 million annually, there isn't even an employee requirement, making it a highly effective and very efficient structure for entrepreneurs and service professionals. Special shout out to Ruderus. He says, "Hey, how's your day been, buddy? It was long. It was long. So we switched out cars. Then I tried to adjust some of the speakers in the car, and it didn't go the way I wanted it to go. And now I'm looking at potentially going down the street and having somebody rewire some of the speakers in the car because I wanted to do it. But it isn't going to cost that much. But any dollar that's not being invested into something else, in stocks and bonds and stuff, I consider it technically a waste. But then at the same time, I looked at the fact that the speakers that I had gotten was bought for me to use. So I was like, it's a waste of money not to use them. So I'm like, well, let me just go ahead and get them installed now that I'm riding this car. So I'm gonna have to swing down to a place and see if I can give them $50 or something like that to connect the wires to the main line and just run it that way, and then make it do what it do. Something simple. Uh, and but fantastically, car has been sitting up for 3 years under a tarp, not used. Stuck a battery from a different car in there. I jury rigged this stuff. I got me some extra large 15-foot long power cables for the car, hooked them up to the dead battery that's in the car, ran that to the battery on the floorboard in the passenger seat of the car, put a brand new battery in the car, and just started it up. And now I'm driving the car all over the place. It's crazy. So people be like, "What the hell?" Got cables going everywhere, bro. I ain't got it. I own it. It don't gotta be spectacular. That motherfucker just gotta run. Power windows work, sunroof work. I'm like, hey, it is what it is. He said our recent game is wow. Oh yeah, you're gonna kick my ass in that one. What a life with three queens. He said, did you wire it yourself? Okay, I wired the battery myself. I was about to wire the speakers myself, and the concern that I had was the speaker wires that I bought are not effective enough, and that's what got me frustrated. So, because I spent 2.5 hours trying to get the speakers connected the way I wanted them connected in the back seat. And then I said, you know what? I could literally get a professional to do this in like 2 hours and pay like $50 or maybe $100 at the most and have it done better than what I'm dealing with right now. And I was like, not even gonna wait. I'm gonna just put that scenario, put a pin in it. I'll get back to it in a few days, in a week or two, get that done. Because when I'm driving family around in the car, I want to have a better experience in it because it's got a nice sound system in it right now. It's 2003, so it's like 22 years old, but it's got a nice sound system in it. But the two 6x9 subwoofers would kind of enhance the sound. And since it was a gift bought for me, I'm like, I throw it in there. I throw it in there. He said, cool. From point two, from point A to point B and back. Oh, of course. Oh yeah. Well, remember I told you guys a couple weeks ago that the Cadillac that we were riding in had broke down on the interstate. Well, before I pay any money to fix that Cadillac, I put air in the tire, took the battery out the Cadillac, put it in the Chrysler, and jumped that bitch off and said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna drive it like this." $0 to put my car back on the road. Well, it's not going to be $0. There's going to be a $30 a month increase on the insurance, and then I have to pay $15 to transfer the plates from the broke down car to the non broke down car. But less than $100, I went from a car broke down to driving a car that, ironically, better condition. So I'm like, ah. The only thing I don't like about this car is that I have to do something with the transmission because the second gear shift solenoid doesn't work the way I would like it to work. So if I'm riding around in second gear, it'll lock in first gear, which requires me to turn the car off and turn it back on. It is not a perfect scenario. However, if I'm upward of 35, 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour, I ain't got to worry about none of that stuff. It just does not do well in like 15 to 25 miles an hour in second gear because the second gear shift solenoid is defective. Before I spend $2,500 to fix your transmission, I'll drive that bitch in first gear until I can switch it in third because it has a Shiftronic system. So I can put it in the manual and shift up to third gear, skipping second, and then shift down to first gear, skipping second, and just ride it like that and not have to worry about it. Still getting better gas mileage than the Chrysler. I mean the Cadillac. He said increased insurance price. Yes, that car is more valuable than the other car. The monetary value of the '03 is more expensive than the monetary value of, and reason being is the 2003 has about 85,000 miles on it. The 2008 has 175,000 miles on it. So the value is drastically different. Uh, and it's okay. It's one of the things I checked up because until wrecked, right? But here's the thing. Remember, I covered the show about insurance premiums, right? So I told you guys about that. I talked to my insurance agent after I covered the after I covered the show with you guys. I talked to my insurance agent, and they're actually going to be giving me a $200 deduction at the renewal of my policy. So even though the policy went up $30 a month for the next 4 months, because August, September, October, November, and then in December the policy is going to go down $200. So I'm probably going to pay that extra $200 for the next 4 or 5 months, and then I'm getting a $200 discount for the remaining of my policy, and then they're taking an additional 30% off of my policy as well. So I'm going to be seeing another 300 something dollars coming off of my policy. So that's going to wrap me right around um, somewhere close to like $75 a month for insurance, which not too many people can say in America that they can afford that they got. I mean, everybody can afford $75, but like not too many people can say that they've got $75 a month car insurance. So I'm like, oh fuck yeah. I'll take I'll take that increase. I'll take that increase. I'll take it and run with it. Because that is way cheaper than what because now I'm saving money by switching cars. It says, do you feel like there's always someone with their hand in your pocket? Yes. Yes. This is one of the reasons why I'm telling you guys to invest, move your money into a position where you can do a buy and hold and build up your revenue. Because yes, there's always going to be somebody with their hand in your pocket. They're going to try to take money out for car maintenance. They're going to take money out for car insurance. They're going to take money out for registration. Some states have 2 year and more longer renewal times. Almost every year the registration costs go up. So if you don't buy it for several years in advance, you'll get that increase every year. But if you get it multiple year tag, you are grandfathered into the original price when you paid for the tag, and that save you a little bit of money here and there. Um, they're always in your pocket. There's always going to be something that you got to pay extra for. But the difference is that if you pay attention to how costs occur, you can shave money off in different areas, and that puts a little bit more money into your pocket. So me saving 500 extra dollars a month in my upcoming insurance policy, that gives me 500 extra. Well, not $500 a month. It's saving me $500 out of the policy because my policy isn't that high right now. am basically going to be paying half as much starting in January than what I'm paying right now, which gives me an extra hundred something dollars a month to put into investments or spend on something else that I need around the way. Is that most people don't even have 500 in the bank. There is a statistic that shows that uh, a few million people have about $1,000 in their bank account, but not much more than that. Out of 365 or 368 million people, 2 to 3 million individuals have about $1,000 of discretionary spending in their bank account. So that's outside of the billionaires and the millionaires, where the billionaires and millionaires are like 1% of the population. So 363.65. So 3 million, maybe 3,600,000 millionaires got extra money lying around. And then out of the other uh, 360 million Americans, like 3 million of them got like $1,000 in their bank account. So if you take 7 million people that got $1,000 or more in their bank account out of the almost 370 million people that's here, you're looking at 360 million Americans that are broke as fuck. That one unexpected turn of events can fuck up the whole financial rotation for the rest of the next 6 months. Like my down car situation cost me $125 for the tow. It would have cost me money for the repairs. It would have cost me money for all of these things if I didn't already have a backup plan. Some people might say, "Oh, you could have got your insurance to come and tow your vehicle." Yeah, but it would have took me 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours. I would have been late for the podcast more so than what I was, and it would have made my insurance go up because it would have been a claim. So instead, I just paid it out of pocket. You want to use your insurance claim tow to snatch your car from a very, very far inconvenient situation so that they can drive it directly to a mechanic shop. If you're bringing the car back to your house, you want your insurance to tow it to the mechanic after that. That's when you use the insurance. But if you've got enough cash to just get you a tow truck, you get you a tow truck. Really, smarter move to do is if you take the tow off of your insurance policy and put the $34 a month into your bank account for the tow when you need a tow, instead of having your insurance do the tow, you can do the tow your damn self. And you will be saving money on your car insurance. Think about that. He said, every time I come here, I feel broker. I'm taking my comfort blanket. Well, every time you come here, you learn about things that you didn't think about that people do. And when we think about the things that we should not have done had we had more financial advice, we would recognize that we can now make certain changes that will save us money going forward. It's not about looking in the past and wallowing about past mistakes. It's about looking forward and recognizing your success. If you recognize that you made bad decisions in the past that were not effective for you, but you know how to make those changes going forward, now you can make the changes that you need so that you are successful in the future. Because if you were spending too much money in the past and now you're able to change that, now you have more discretionary spending. Whether you put the money aside for emergency funds or you put the money aside for stocks and bonds and real estate so that you can build your generational wealth, either way, you have more money to do that with. If you're living from check to check and you continue to live from check to check, recognizing that Donald Trump just put a big elbow drop on Social Security and disability, where individuals are going to get denied more now than what they used to back in the day. So it's not like you can say, I'm old, I qualify for benefits. You're going to have to be 70 fucking years old if you live that long before they start saying, oh, yeah, we'll send you some money. So you have to build your wealth now. Even if you're not building wealth for your next generation, even if you're just doing it so that when you get too old and feeble to put up with the bullshit of the younger generation, you can stay at home and still live good. But you want a system where your money is forever making money for you so that you are not going broke. You don't want to live a lifestyle where you have a specific fixed quantity of money. And as you live, that money decreases because as inflation increases, that money runs out faster. Impulse buys, the money runs out faster. Emergencies, the money runs out faster. And when the money is gone, you have to go out and get it again. So your goal in life is to have a large quantity of money somewhere that is paying you and it will forever pay you so that you don't have to worry about where the rest of your money is coming from. Because if you've got a large quantity of money that's paying you, and we're going to be talking about leveraging loans next week, then you can buy the distressed properties, you can buy the rental properties, you can buy the multifamily homes, you can renovate them out with that money. Your stock option can pay for the loan. The property can be developed, people can start renting it out, the people that are renting it out can pay the loan, and then the between the stock options paying the loan and the rental property paying the loan, you can always get another cash loan and pay you. The difference is if you don't have any money, you can't do anything. You could be the smartest financial advisor in the world, but if you don't have money to take action on your train of thought, you can't do shit. Got to get a little bit of money in there. He said, first medical bill you broke. Bro, the first time you decide to take yourself to the hospital, you going bankrupt because they're going to, if they know that you got money, they're going to run test after test after test after test on a fucking head cold. You could have took your ass to the pharmacy and got something over the counter and took your ass to bed drinking some orange juice and you would have been fine in the morning. You could have took you two Benadryl and you would have been fine in the morning. But because they know that they're going to get paid off of this, they're going to run more tests so that they can get paid off of all of the tests. They're going to put you in a room, which is charging you hotel fees because you're paying thousands of dollars for this private room that you were in while in between tests, the inpatient procedures. You're renting that room on your medical bill. For what? I'm not saying don't go to the doctor. I'm saying you got to put money aside for that shit. You got to pay for convenience. Y'all got to put money in a place where when it goes down, you can do something about it. Because you don't want to be in the lobby of the hospital with no capabilities of covering the bill. Because if you can't prove that you're covering the bill some kind of way, they're not going to do much but stabilize you and send you back out. Not necessarily fixing your problem, just making sure you're not dead while you're on their property, as opposed to giving you some options to fix the problem. So you got to pay attention to these things. And this is why I give you guys all of this information. Now, it would be irresponsible to talk about incredible rewards without a clear eyed look at the very real risks that we were talking about with going over there by Puerto Rico. Now, Puerto Rico isn't a simple plug and play tax haven scenario, it's a complex emerging market with challenges that could easily trip up the underprepared individual. So, real quick, let's talk about the real estate situation because we've been talking about this real estate situation for the last half hour. The same incentives driving demand have created a volatile market over in Puerto Rico. Property values have shot up with residential prices increasing 6 to 10% year over year in the same areas. This surge, plus a spike in construction costs from the tariff, is squeezing margins for developers, which makes it harder for you guys to flip houses. The risk of a market correction is real. And a market correction means that the values of the houses is going to go down, even though your costs are still high, and you might take a financial loss, especially if the demand for these properties cools down in 2026. Think about that. With that tax change, then there's the unavoidable reality of natural disasters over in Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico, unlike America, there's natural disasters in every country around the world. Some places have tsunamis, hurricanes, blizzards, tornadoes, earthquakes. Most of these things happen in America. Uh, we don't have volcano eruptions, but there's that in certain areas. But there's natural disasters in every country around the world. But you've got to be prepared for this because Puerto Rico is in the heart of Hurricane Alley. So that's almost like building houses in Louisiana during hurricane season. I don't know if y'all know about that. Louisiana, you got to know how to swim. Now, this island, Puerto Rico, is still recovering from Hurricane Mariah in 2017. And the threat of another major storm is constant. So this isn't just a risk, it's a statistical probability, which means that any type of flood or hurricane insurance that you might be trying to get, you got to talk to the insurer to make sure that it will pay out if a hurricane washes away your property. Think about that. Mount St. Helens, yes. Now you have to factor in the high cost of that good insurance that will cover that damage, which can be harder to get, and a budget for hurricane resistant construction is also going to be a lot more costly than the average renovations of a property. Beyond that, the island is seismically active, and a climate change poses a long term threat to coastal properties. If thinking about this, when we were talking about developing in Japan, if you did a tear down and then, like, you bought a whole block of land, you did a tear down, you built it up, turned it into a significantly satisfactory apartment complex with a park in the center kind of thing, and you made it tsunami proof, hurricane proof. Their tsunamis as our hurricanes. It's the same kind of hell and damnation. It's lots of water, lots of wind, lots of property damage, and a lot of swimming until the storm passes over. That's what we deal with. They call them tsunamis, we call them hurricanes. Um, so hurricane proof or tsunami proof, the properties cost you more money, but the physical damage of the property during a storm would be less. And if you're smart about it, you would encourage your tenants to have rental insurance for their property inside of your property, which works two ways. Because if their property is damaged from a storm, their property is covered. That's you being courtesy or considerate of them. But if they fuck up your property, damage walls, damage floors, burn something down, whatever the case may be, you don't have to argue with them in any kind of litigative scenario. They should give you proof of property insurance coverage, which gives you the claim location if the property ends up damaged. So, for whatever reason, your tenant moves out, you evaluate the property's condition outside of natural disaster, take a claim out on their insurance, and then cover the cost of that damage. Now, you could also, and I've seen this happen, you can also be the type of property manager that includes insurance coverage in the rent. You got to look at local laws about that, but if you include the renter's insurance for the condition of the property in the cost of the rent, they pay the rent, you got what you need to cover the the tenants when they decide to fuck stuff up. Question: do you have renters? Well, every property that I possess has renters. That would be the smart way to go, because fixing and flipping is a lot of effort with very little reward. Typically, on average, no matter how much you pay for the property versus how much you sell the property after you finish paying off all the investors, loans, borrowers, real estate agents, brokers, all that other stuff, you end up with anywhere between $10,000 and $50,000 per property. This is a finite number. Doesn't matter if it's a $500,000 house. Doesn't matter if it's a $5 million house. You usually walk away with somewhere between $10,000 and $50,000 per house. Now, when you're doing multifamily houses, apartment complexes, and such, you can probably get a substantially larger return, especially if you fill it with tenants, and then you can sell it for even higher because it's an income based property. But yeah, you typically want to have renters everywhere, and they all pay every month on time. Yes, if you have the properties at the okay, so if you're targeting low income households, you're not trying to kill them with inflation costs. Think about the fact that statistically the property should be gauged at about $1 per square foot for whatever property that you're renting out. You charge more if it's a two-story house. You charge more if you have other amenities like utilities included. You charge more if you're factoring in the cost of the renter's insurance and all this other stuff. But the fact is that the base level cost of rent for most properties is supposed to be about $1 per square foot. Inflation is going to have them charge $1.75 to 25 per square foot, where they go from spending $2,000 for a 2,000 square foot house to spending $2,000 for a 750 square foot apartment. Think about the people that are paying $1,500 for a 3 bedroom apartment that is around 800 square feet, 900 square feet. They're paying $2 per square foot when the standard is $1 per square foot because of inflation. They put out contracts to their tenants, which tells their tenants that we reserve the right to notify you 30 to 90 days in advance of rent increases at any time. You're grandfathered into a contract that's continuous. So if I don't send you a notice to renew, your old agreement is grandfathered in and automatically renewed. But that all that does is gives you a tenant that will pay the rent until you make the rent unpayable. If you are targeting low income housing, and you are putting, especially if you're targeting Section 8 housing, and you're putting reasonable rates out there, and then you don't raise the rent until the tenant moves out, you're going to stay a good 90 to 100% tenants, because where the fuck else are they going to go? Think about the fact that at the beginning of this year, no, think about the fact that this time last year, certain places were doing $600 and $700 a month. Those places have gotten renovated out, and now they're doing 1,100 a month. You've got certain places that were doing $2,000 a month, and then after all the fires happened in California, they're doing $4,000 a month. You got places in California that were doing $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and after the fires, they're doing $8,000 and $9,000 a month. Inflation is a son bitch. So if you're undercutting the market, you can make you a decent quantity of profit off of that. And then again, because you're undercutting the market, you can make a second profit off of them by legally charging them a service fee for applications. Each person can pay between $50 and $150 a person, and each person that's going to live on the property has to apply. You can't just do one application for the family. You have to do one application for every adult. So if you've got a husband and wife, that's $300, and each person that applies, you're not guaranteeing them that they're going to get it, but you select one of your applicants, you put them into that property. If 1,000 people apply for the apartment at even $50 an application, and you're renting out 2 bedroom apartments, you're getting $100 per apartment, which means that $100 per applicant, which means that 1,000 people just got you $100,000 or $10,000 worth of money off of applications before they start paying for the property. And if you're doing that for each one of the units that you have that's vacant, you're going to make a shit ton of money off of them before they move in, and then you're able to keep them because they can afford this. Even when they get raises, the rent don't go up. They can afford this, and why would they go anywhere else? Because the rent is too high anywhere else. So yeah, that would be the method to the madness. Is that even with background checks and FICO scores, some renters are a royal pain in the ass. They are, but you do realize that you're never going to find perfect tenants 100% of the time. The type of neighborhood that you put it in, you're going to have tenants that have loud bass in their cars. They're going to have loud exhaust in their cars. They're going to have house parties all the time. Um, the FICO score doesn't tell you everything about a customer. The FICO score tells you if they pay on time. But if they fuck your place up, that's not in the FICO score. That's in the eviction, which you do the background check and see if they have property damage in prior evictions, unpaid rent and property damage in prior convictions or evictions. That tells you if they're a problem person. If you're looking at their criminal background, you're looking if they've had domestic violence charges against them, if they were arrested or fined or ticketed in some way, shape, or form for noise pollution, stuff to that effect. When they get traffic tickets, that kind of stuff shows up, and then you kind of get an idea of what kind of person they are. But you're looking at if you pay your rent on time and don't piss off your neighbors, I could really care less because I've got renter's insurance on the property. If you fuck the place up, I'm gonna take out a claim and renovate it after you move out. Plain and simple. uh, he says, but you will go out and buy a new car and it's $650 per month now. Add full coverage. I ain't buying no new car these days. These people will go out there and buy a new car with a piss poor credit score, buy a new car, pay $600 a month and full coverage. Bro, I got basic liability on my shit. I ain't made that. Paying more per month for a car than they are for their house. And that's why they're car poor because you're paying $650, $700 a month, $900 a month for a car, especially if they're going for the luxury cars. They're paying $1,500 a month for the car, $300 to $500 a month for the car insurance. They're paying a total of $2,000 a month for a brand new vehicle to look cool when they leave their house. And they're so broke now, they're living in a financially challenged neighborhood because they can't afford to go anywhere else. He said, then he explained 27,000 to remove the spoon. I'm not paying. I'm taking someone to the court. Well, no, you don't pay $27,000. So this is what happens. Like I said, if you got the renter's insurance and you incorporate that into the rent, make sure you check your local laws and make sure that you're doing what you're doing with the way you're supposed to be doing what you're doing. Now, renter's insurance on each one of the policies, you're probably, since you're hosting this, you're probably going to get you a really good discount on it because if you've got say 100 units and you're going to get 100 units of renter's insurance from the same rental provider, they're going to be like, fuck yes, we've got a whole bunch of clients from this place right here. They might give it to you for a discount. You could charge your customer market rate the same way with utilities included. Utilities included, if you've got a large quantity of properties, you might get a discount from the utility company and you might set a fixed rate of usage for the average person. And as long as they don't increase the usage, you don't increase the rent to cover the excess usage. But for the average person that uses less than what you projected, you can set a price and say utilities included. Charge an extra $150 a month for the rent where the house is supposed to be 750, but you're charging another 200 for a 2 bedroom, 750 square foot apartment. You're charging an extra 200. Now it's at 950. because you cover the utilities. And if they don't use the quantity of utilities projected, that's a profit in your pocket. You put an extra $50 up there for the mandatory, because you can in some states write it into the contract that it's mandatory renter's insurance, and then you provide the renter's insurance in the rent. And if that renter's insurance is going to be like $65 a month or $70 a month, you just went from a 750 square foot apartment being $900 to being like $1,000, but it's covered, right? Then if you've got an apartment complex, it's got a gym in there, a basketball court, all this other stuff. Now you're charging $1,200, $1,275, $1,300 a month for this 750 square foot apartment. But all of the amenities is the reason why it's valued so high. The profit that you're getting from the increased cost will cover the maintenance of the basketball court, the maintenance of the gym equipment, as long as they don't fuck shit up deliberately. Everything pays for itself. Now, if because you're hosting the policy, if they get evicted, you can take a claim out on the property before you cancel the service on that unit. And now the insurance company is going to pay for the renovations on that unit. Because just because they moved out ain't got nothing to do with the fact that you are hosting the insurance for that unit. And that prevents the client from terminating their renter's insurance and then moving out where you can't take out a claim. And that also prevents you from having to take them to court, because you have to pay to take them to court, upward of $500 to start the claim, then legal fees with attorneys. You're going to try to recoup that off of the client if you win and when you win. But all of the money that you got to set aside in a high interest bank account so that your legal fees are already prorated to an attorney that's going to take action against these people and get you profits back or refunds you on debts. You could cover that spread and say, I don't gotta pay all of this money for somebody who voluntarily left when I could take out an insurance claim. You know, the only time you really should be taking them to court is when they didn't pay the rent. You got to force them to vacate the premises. But if the property is low enough for them to afford it, you shouldn't have to vacate the premises. Also, if you recognize that there's grants for this shit, if you partner with HUD, Section 8, and other nonprofit organizations that does rent assistance, if you have a tenant that is struggling to pay the rent and you recognize this and you get them fixated with individuals that'll help them pay the rent, you don't have to spend all this money in the court throwing them out. You can get money from other places because you are keeping them with a house. You ain't know that, huh? There's grants for that. People that are capitalists, that they're only trying to get money to get money to get money. They're not thinking about the fact that there are $500,000 government grants out there. You, honest to God, could have 3 buildings that make you money and 1 building that does not. And that building can be the charity case that gets you all the money from the government that covers people who can't afford their rent. And those emergency housing facilities is like 18 to 24 months that they can stay in that particular type of property, and the rent is covered by the U.S. government. All you got to do is fill out some forms, show the cost, and they do fiscal year reimbursements for stuff like this. I don't know why people don't do this all the time, but this is one of the reasons why we got so many people homeless right now. He said, great idea. I'll check with my insurance company and see what their thoughts on the spoon in the sewer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It depends on the laws and the cities and states that you're in, but you can have it as a mandatory requirement, and as a mandatory requirement, you can as long as you're itemizing it in the bill, you can itemize it for the client. They can get their own if they want to, but if you're providing it and it's included in the rent, they don't have to get their own. So, you know, you put that in there, and there's no laws that says that you can't make it a mandatory requirement. But if you put it in the contract and they sign a contract, it's a binding contract. And if you fill out the contract that says included in the rent and you itemize it as This is the cost for the renter's insurance that covers property damage to the unit, not necessarily covering the tenant's assets. You're good to go. That's stuff that people don't think about. But one less stress that you have to generate revenue seemingly easy. And now you don't have to worry about what if, what if, what if. And then with all of those government grants out there to develop low income areas, you develop low income areas and include that cost of damages to the property as part of the overhead when you fill out the paperwork to the government and say, hey, I've got this, 20 unit facility that's taking care of all these folks that ain't got no, they don't have enough money to pay their bills. Help me out. US government says, here. The only requirement that you really have for stuff like that is that all of your properties that are being funded by the U.S. government have to be properly renovated under the building code. He says, I know what happened. He hydrojetted the spoon down the sewer line, getting it stuck. And you want me to pay $27,000 to replace the whole line? No. If a customer does that, the customer is now paying $27,000 for shoving a spoon down a sewer line. That's property damage. Sewer line is part of the house. So if the customer shoves a spoon, think about this for ladies that got all the extra hair that don't stay in their head. If the customer clogs the pipes with hair and it's so far down that now you've got to spend thousands of dollars for a plumber to come and unclog those pipes. If you've got renter's insurance, you can take out a claim on that shit. You're not paying for that. The insurance policy is. But the insurance policy, if you're charging it to the tenant is paying for the insurance policy. So do you give a shit as to what kind of claim you're taking on that policy? No. Because if they damage the property too many times where you're taking too many claims out on the policy before they get removed off of the property, then you can start showing that there is extensive quantities of unnecessary and unjustified damage to the policy. When the renter's insurance is canceled, you can evict them for defacing the property. But again, you're only taking them to court for possession of premises, not for shoving a spoon down the drain, not for busting a hole in the wall. Because you can have individuals where they look like a really good couple, and then like halfway through the marriage, a couple kids come out, and now the husband's punching holes in the wall. I'm fine with that, bro. Punch as many holes in the walls as you want to. I'm not fixing shit until you move out. But when you move out, I'm going to take a nice insurance claim out and fix all the holes in the wall. I'm not going to complain to you about nothing. When you do those inspections, because not a lot of landlords do this. You can do a monthly inspection or quarterly inspection and walk through the house. A lot of renters will be like, oh man, I got to hide that hole with this picture frame and this, that, and the third. Bro, I don't give a shit about that picture frame hole in the wall. I'm going to take out a claim when you move out that's going to fix that hole in the wall. So if you don't fix that hole in the wall, I'm going to fix that hole in the wall, but you don't get your security deposit back if there's a hole in the wall. So I get your money from the security deposit, and then I get the insurance claim to pay for the the damages. So it's a win-win for me. So not only did I make money off the application, I made even more money off the security deposit, and you're paying for the renter's insurance where I'm going to take a claim out, and the insurance claim is going to pay for the damages that you caused on a property. And when I show the bill for the damages, no court is going to want you to get your security deposit back. So I just got paid 3 times. I got to change out the carpet. I got to plug in walls. I got to change out light fixtures. All this other stuff I got to do. Hey, that's it. That's how it works. Is that most renters don't carry renters insurance, just like most people don't carry insurance either. Good luck collecting. And that's the reason why I was telling you specifically instead of making it their responsibility to claim the rent, to possess the renter's insurance, that you as the landlord, you as the leaseor, incorporate it into the contract and itemize the monthly premium in the cost of the rent. So when they pay you the rent, you pay the renter's insurance. So it doesn't matter if they're an asshole and they decide that they want to fuck over your property when they get put out. That's fine. Fuck the property up. Your rent money is going towards the insurance. And a lot of times the renter's insurance can be anywhere between $25 and $65 a month. So if you increase the rent by $25 to $65 a month, the tenant is paying the expense. And if the tenant is paying the expense, then you're going to take out a claim. The majority of the damage that they do, unless they burn the whole property down, the majority of the damage that they do should be covered under the claim. Average everyday damage that a tenant will do is stains on the carpet. It will be holes in the walls, broken light fixtures, broken chandeliers, broken lights, broken windows, broken doors. These are the average damage scenarios. Broken appliances. These are the average damage scenarios. And a lot of this stuff is covered under the basic insurance coverage scenario. But you being a corporation or an LLC, you might decide to say, you know what, let me just get like a tier 2 or tier 3 just in case they burn the kitchen down. The tenant paying for that anyway. It's like, for example, if you buy a used car that's got 145,000 miles on it, you go get you some Car Shield. Car Shield says that if you have the policy for more than 30 days and you have put more than 500 miles on the car, you can take out a claim on that car. It is not a mandatory requirement to maintain the policy for an extended period of time. You just had to pay last month and pay the month of the claim. And if you do that, you take out the claim. You can drop the policy at any time. And the fact is, special shout out to Steven. Yo, back, something came up. We here though. Hey, I really appreciate you diving in. Um, but then what was I talking about? Oh, so after the claim, you can do whatever. Now, let's say you've got a car, because Car Shield does not inspect your vehicle to find out what condition it's in. They do limit it to certain things that are wear and tear that's not going to be covered, but there's going to be things that is unexpected damage that is going to be covered. If you got, I do believe it's like the diamond or platinum package, which is the top tier thing, you might be paying like $500 a month for it, right? So say you know that your sunroof is broken, might cost you $2,500 to repair it, right? Now, you could get Car Shield, you give them your mileage, pay the $500 for the first month, pay the $500 for the second month, take out the claim, drop the policy. They fix the sunroof, and you save $1,500. That's the system, because you know that the type of claim you're going to take is higher than the basic. You get you a tier 2 or tier 3 policy. The same thing applies with a real estate property. If you know that the type of claim that you might take on that, you might take out a tier 2 or tier 3 insurance claim on it. It might be $125 a month, but I don't give a fuck. I was going to put this apartment out for $750 a month. So if I charge an extra $150 for the insurance on it, that's good, because they're covering the insurance. If I do got to take out a claim because they set the kitchen on fire, it's going to be covered. See what I'm saying? That's the method to the madness. Instead of the less liability that you put on the tenant, the more you're protected as a real estate investor. So the less effort you have to put on getting rid of the property, the more you're invested, the more your investment is protected. Because as long as you own the debt, it's a tax deduction. So if you're making money off of the property and the money that you're making off of the property is less than the overall debt, it's a tax deduction. Uh, and then if everything else is covered by insurances, then that means that every time a tenant moves out, you take out an insurance claim, renovate the apartment, bada bing, bada boom, you're done. And then you can effectively raise the rent. So you probably started out at like $1 per square foot. Somebody moved out. Now you're doing $2 per square foot. Because if they rented the apartment for 10 years and then they move out, now with inflation, you might now be charging $2 per square foot when your competitors are charging $3 and $4 per square foot. If you undercut the market, you're going to have more clientele. It's not about being greedy. The goal is to maintain 100% success or the closest thing to 100% success. You are in a niche where there is more money going around than what you can put into your pocket. So why have 70% of your units filled and you're competing with everybody else at market average? Why not undercut the market and have 100% units? That's how you make it work. And with all that extra money that you're going to be getting off the application fees, all that extra money that you're going to be saving on repairs, all that extra money you're going to be getting off of security deposits for individuals that don't take good care of the property, you can take anything that you keep after they're gone and you can reinvest that somewhere else. You can reinvest it while they're still there. You just got to make sure that it's accessible to give back to them when they qualify for it to get the refund when they move out. But if they stay there for 10 years and you take their $2,500 and you put it into a high interest something or other, and that money turns into $10,000 or $15,000 before they move out, when they move out, you can give them their $2,500. You made a shit ton of money off of it while they were still on your property. Then when they leave, they get their security deposit back. They're happy, but you still got like 10,000 extra dollars off of their money, which you can utilize to expand your ability to have more properties under your belt. And this is the kind of behavior that checking local laws you can pull off in multiple countries around the world. Certain debts that you derive are tax deductible towards your profits. And then certain profits that you end up with can maximize your portfolio where you can start seeing bigger gains. And that's what you want to see. You want to see bigger gains. Now, when it comes down to Puerto Rico, the economy and the infrastructure are going to add another layer of risk that not a lot of people think about. Puerto Rico's economy is fragile. So while it's benefited from a huge influx of federal aid after the last hurricane, those funds are temporary and starting to wind down. So a critical pain point is the electrical grid. So since energy costs are extremely high and the grid is unreliable, this is going to lead to frequent outages, rolling blackouts that can disrupt your businesses and your life. So while the island is also facing a demographic challenge with a shrinking, aging population, rising questions about the future workforce and local demand, because old folks is moving there retiring so that they can save money on their taxation. Yes, less young folks is being born and raised there in order to continue to develop the infrastructure. So you have to think about that when you're going out there. Then there's another risk where you have social and political risks, where the influx that we've been talking about so far of wealthy mainlanders that created an undeniable friction, a gringo go home sentiment exists. Racism is everywhere, social classism is everywhere. This is going to be fueled by rising housing costs that are pricing out locals, which you can fix that if you get into the real estate area and then you start making things more accessible to the locals. Look at some of your local laws about long-term 5 and 10 year leases, 20-year leases. Trying to tell you. Now, this price increase scenario has led to protests and creates political pressure for even more reform. And while your tax degree is a contract, the political environment can still feel hostile. So this island's finances are also still under the watch of federal oversight boards, and a leftover from its bankruptcy, which has significant power over its budget. So investing in Puerto Rico isn't for the faint of heart. Just like all of the stocks that we've been talking about that are high risk, high reward, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. If you would have been following us this past week, like I told you, and you would have got into that Zim stock, you had an opportunity to buy last week, sell over Friday or Monday, and catch that $230 gain, and then still buy back in yesterday or today, and still be able to get the ex dividend towards the end of the month, Friday, Saturday, where we sell on Monday. However, the difference between what you sell at versus what you buy in at could lead you in a difference where the $230 that you gained off of selling the stock might be subject to depreciation when you buy back in, and then it drops 75 cents a share, and then you end up losing 75 cents a share on the same amount of money, which might have would have been upward of $175. Think about how those two dynamics fluctuate. So if you would have took a $175 loss and you had a $230 gain, the difference between the two, which would have been your overall profit. And that is one of the reasons why you have to pay attention to what your risk is, when you want to buy in, when you want to pull out, and if you decide to go back into it, how much you're going back in with. This is going to require a deep understanding of each of the risks that we've been talking about throughout the show. The potential for huge savings is real, but so is the potential for huge headaches if you're not prepared. While losing that 0% rate for new people is a huge shift, it's important to see the bigger picture. The story of Act 60 isn't over, it's just starting a new chapter. And for those who understand the new rules, there are still powerful opportunities out there. The biggest piece of good news from the reform is the extension of the Act 60 program itself, where it was originally set to expire in 2035 anyway, but the benefits have now been extended all the way to 2055. So even though you no longer get the 0%, you still get the 4% as opposed to getting regular tax rates by 2035, which would have been 10 years from now. This is a massive vote of confidence from the government. It gives investors 2 extra decades of certainty for anyone building a business with a long term horizon. That 20-year extension is an incredible runway. Everyone that has come to the show, I try my best to tell everyone while they're still watching to put your effort into building a 10 and 20-year plan. Where do you want to be at in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And where do you want your money to be at in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? For those who make it in under the 2025 deadline, the deal is even sweeter. They get that grandfather 0% rate now guaranteed for an additional 20 years. And for those arriving in 2026 and beyond, the extension still provides valuable long term stability. So let's say it again. The new 4% tax rate is still incredibly low. It's not zero, but it remains one of the lowest tax rates on investment income available in any American anywhere. And an investor in New York City or California could face a combined tax rate of capital gains of over 30%. And for them, moving to Puerto Rico is still a tax cut of nearly 90%. By any objective standard, it's an incredibly compelling offer. It's also critical to remember that the change only hits the individual investor part of Act 60. The other major pieces of the law, the export service incentives, is largely untouched. Just that 4% taxation on investments. So this means a business that moves to Puerto Rico and exports its services can still get that flat 4% corporate tax rate, regardless of the 0% taxation that you get for moving all your assets there. So this is a huge deal for consulting firms, marketing agencies, asset managers, and a ton of other service businesses. A business owner could move their company, pay 4% corporate tax before deductions, even after 2026. So paying only a 4% tax on dividends, they take from the company. They're not taking from you. So don't stress too much about it. Final, other key benefits are staying put, including the 75% exemption on property taxes, which is a huge savings given the rise in real estate values. The future of Act 60 is one of maturity. The government is shifting from the Wild West era of pure tax exemption to a more stable long term framework, but the bar to get in is higher. And the headline benefit is a little less perfect, but the core value is still incredibly strong. So Puerto Rico is cementing its status as a premier tax advantage place for the long haul, but it is clear the absolute best deal is reserved for those who act before the clock strikes midnight on New Year's Eve of 2025. And really, it's going to be before the end of business day on the 31st, assuming that the 31st is not on a Saturday or Sunday. Now, we are a historic turning point opportunity when we're addressing Puerto Rico's tax rich loopholes. And as many have called it, this is not closely competing with other individuals, but it does provide a front door to the old 0% tax free dream while still being locked in forever with the new ways of getting your taxation cut. So just remember one thing that you take away from today's show is that coming January 2026, I got two things for you. Coming January 2026, you're going to be paying 4% in Puerto Rico for taxes on investments, and you will not be paying any money on your tax stamp for your suppressor. Just want to throw that out there real quick. So if you pistol heavy, if you shotgun ready, and you want to throw a suppressor on your stuff, and what was slowing you down was that ridiculously high tax stamp that you have to pay on a regular basis for your accessories to your firearm. Come January 1st of 2026, you do not have to pay that tax stamp. So since we're talking about tax stuff, I just wanted to throw that in there real quick. This is going to create you guys a great divide. So on one side, you'll have the grandfather class in Puerto Rico and the investors who acted before that deadline, locking in that 0% rate, capital gains and all, benefiting 55. And on the other hand, everybody else who dropped the ball, failed on their application, had it to start over, started too late, they're going to be able to enjoy the 4%. And they will forever pay that. And their predecessors don't. Sucks to be you. This is no longer a question of if, but when. The law has been passed. The legislation is on its way to being official, just waiting on a signature. And you know how that shit happens. Your boy gonna take a couple sips of the hoo hoo, and then he gonna get back on it, and this is gonna be on the record before September. The timeline is aggressive, and the process of becoming a bona fide resident is demanding. And this is gonna take several months, 4 to 6 of them, and you have to be dedicated to this work because it's got to be consistent. This is a moment of decision. The chance is legally erasing your capital gain taxes as a U.S. citizen, and this is going to be rare for individuals to observe. The window to claim that prize is down to the final months. Puerto Rico will remain a premier destination for a tax efficient life, but the legendary deal, the one that made generations of tax free millionaires, will soon be a relic in the past. The time for watching from the sidelines is over. If you have the capital, the risk tolerance, and the drive to go down that path, you should have already started. Every day you delay lowers your chance of getting in there before the rules change forever. Now, if you're ready to seriously explore if you can make these moves and secure your spot in a 0% club, then you need expert guidance, and you guys need it now. So you guys need to go out there and go and find you some dedicated teams that will help you guys map out the road ahead and see if you're realistically able to hit the goals that you're looking for before this once in a lifetime opportunity is gone. With that being said, I really appreciate you guys coming to the show. Special shout out to those that are watching me from Twitter, and I also really appreciate the rest of y'all that are watching us from TikTok. You guys have been very supportive throughout the day, throughout the year, really. You guys are coming in hard and heavy, more so than YouTube is from time to time. So I really appreciate. I want to recognize those of you that are watching us from Twitter, learning new things. Hit that follow button. I know that you jump onto the show, you seen it, it was running, you jumped onto the show and you didn't really think about it. Take the time as you walk off the show today, go over to the platform and follow this platform on Twitter. It's not as easy to do on Twitter and Twitch as it is to do on YouTube, but proactively put forth the effort to go and follow the channel. Because if you follow this channel on Twitch and Twitter, and especially if you take the time to go and follow the channel on YouTube, whenever we put something else up there, it lets you know. And that actually gives you guys more opportunities like Steven to dive in and catch the knowledge and the information. And if you missed the show because you know that the show existed, you have the opportunity to go back to the YouTube channel and watch it in real time. You can replay it on Twitch and Twitter, but you can go to the YouTube section, and whenever we put information in the comments section, then you are able to watch the show again and get all the information out the comment section off the YouTube. So that's an extra benefit for you guys. And I want you guys to be able to benefit from as much stuff as humanly possible, because knowledge is power, and I want to make y'all strong. With that being said, I want to say, ladies, thank you for coming to this and that. First of all, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to ask y'all to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. We're back to about 68% male following from the male's perspective. Fellas, I do this for y'all to help make fellas higher value men. We're going to increase your wealth, increase your decision-making power, and then you guys will be able to better find higher value women. Now, ladies, I got to tell you, the information that I put up here, it is not gender exclusive. Y'all can take this information and y'all can run with it. Make yourselves higher value women. Improve your decision-making processes. Find you more valuable men. Because if they are thinking the way I'm talking on this channel, you will be financially successful with him. Put that into your repertoire when you're talking to the guy that's wasting a bunch of money at the bar or at the club or expensive dates and stuff to that effect. Because you don't want an individual that's oppressively wasteful. You want an individual that is successfully financially stable. Think about that. That's where I'm going to put a pin in tonight's show. I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.